So I just want to welcome everybody this evening. I'm sure other people will probably be popping in. My name's Jenny Cassidy and I'm from Dumox Learning. And just to let you know the plan for, we're going to try and keep it within the hour. And Helen Harold, who you should see there, is from Dumox Learning too. We're the partners in crime. Hopefully not. We also have Jill from Home Life Academy, and she's going to be speaking to us first for a little while about what she does, and then we'll have Roy Peachy will come after Jill. Lots more people coming in. Roy is he's an AP teacher, he's a CC father. He's actually got lots of different hats, but he's a teacher. He's going to share with us a little bit too, and then we'll finish up with a little bit from Dumox Learning at the end. And hopefully, I thought if we could keep questions maybe till the very end, because some of them might be answered along the way. So hopefully we'll have a bit of time for any questions right at the end. Helen, do you want to just say a few words about the meeting and then we'll pass it over to Jill?
Sure. We just wanted to explain why we were doing this. So Dumox Learning, we've been working with CC the last sort of year or so and having various meetings with CC and exploring the whole idea of doing a high school diploma. But in the UK, if you do the high school diploma, then you probably need APs as well. We've been talking about that.
University.
If you do you want to meet yourself, Natalie? Okay. And then, but if you are going to do the high school diploma, the sort of the person that makes sense to do it with is Home Life Academy, which is why we wanted to do this in collaboration with Home Life Academy, because they've been working with CC in many other countries, and they're well versed in how CC works and how to fit it into the high school diploma. So that's what we wanted to do. We want to kind of have a collaboration with CC and Home Life Academy and Dumox Learning. So that's how it's come about this evening. Okay, so Jill.
All right, I'm just gonna share my screen here. Can you all see that? The Home Life Academy in UK? No?
No.
Not yet, no.
Okay, let me try that again. Oops. All right, so share content screen. All right. Okay, now can you see that? Just a white screen. Can you now see the UK flag?
Yeah, we see it now.
All right, wonderful. All right, yeah, we just had a meeting with Shelley from Classical Conversations International today. So we love our partnership with CC, and I think it's a great partnership for families in the UK. And let me just kind of go into this presentation so that you have an idea of what Home Life Academy is. So I am very excited to be here with you today. We will be in Manchester in July, actually, with CC and with a global home education conference. So we're excited to visit the UK. We've April and I, my partner in crime who owns the company, we've been to the UK before, but we're excited to bring HLA to the UK in July. So HLA is more than record keeping and documents. We're a school, a home education support organization, a business, and most importantly, a ministry. Currently, HLA serves nearly 50,000 students worldwide, and we were established in 2003, so we're a little over 20 years old. Our desire is to help support home education throughout the globe. So this is who we are. This is our staff, and here's our mission statement. Home Life Academy desires to inspire and equip parents to develop a heart for learning in their students while providing freedom and flexibility that they need to succeed. So our highest priority is to serve families. Our role at HLA is to come alongside parents to help them reach their students' goals. At the end of the day, the parents have put their trust into Home Life Academy, and we take that trust very seriously. HLA is a unique organization. As I mentioned earlier, we are a school, but not really a traditional brick and mortar school, as some people think of schools. We appoint the parents to be the teachers. So instead of having you come to our building in Jackson, Tennessee and teach a bunch of students you don't know, you're teaching your own children in the comfort of your own home, just like home education is done. Our staff is here to take care of the administrative responsibilities, like official school documents, certificates, diplomas, record validation, academic counseling, and much more. This letter is written by our senior administrator, Angela McKee, and it explains our lawful position as a state-recognized private school in the state of Tennessee. If you'd like to read that letter more thoroughly, you can send me an email and I'll be happy to send it to you. Because we are a school, we do have requirements. But as we are home educators, we try to keep those requirements to the minimum. We firmly believe that parents should be in charge of their students' education, and we trust that the parents know best regarding the educational needs of their students. So as a company, we have determined that we have 6 core values that our staff strives to carry out. We practice these daily, both to the other members of our staff as well as to the families that we serve. Our core values are a reflection of the heart of everything we do. I want to share these with you and give you some examples of how these core values can be expressed to the families in your country. Flexibility. One of the areas that we refuse to sacrifice is our freedom and flexibility. No matter what we do, we strive to keep this at the forefront of our minds. Giving families the freedom to choose what's best for their students is the essence of what makes HLA unique and why we've seen so much success with our families and students. When it comes to curriculum choices, we're not going to tell you that you can't use something. We're going to ask you to add to it or to modify it maybe, but we're never going to say, no, you absolutely can't use it. We're going to work with you. We work with programs like Cambridge, like CC. We have that partnership with CC so that we have a really seamless integration as to challenge 1, 2, 3, 4 and how we credit those with HLA. And as I said, we're in communication with them all the time. So we have experience with that. We have experience with AP and how to integrate that into a transcript and how to handle that. And we have academic counselors that can make recommendations based on students' overall goals. Somebody who's going into, let's say, the sciences or medicine is going to prepare differently than somebody who wants to be a social worker. So we can reflect that in the transcript and in their preparation. But like we said before, we trust our parents to make the choices that are educationally sound to help their children succeed. That being said, we do have course requirements for all students. As a US-based school, we require that students take a math and an English every year. But even in this requirement, we are flexible and we allow you to use what you want. And if you need to teach in a different language and English is your second language, we can handle that. So it's freedom and flexibility. Helpfulness. We want to be as helpful to you as possible. We believe that helpfulness pairs directly with flexibility as a core value. Here you can see a list of our high school requirements. So up until high school, we require math and English and a few other courses, like 3 other courses at least. But in high school, we do require every year of high school, which is 4 years in the US. I believe that's the same in the UK. Every year you need to take a math and English. When we say credits, that's about 150 hours of study. So we're used to integrating our system into the system in different countries. So we're here for that. But this is the requirement for getting a high school diploma at Home Life Academy. We want our graduates to succeed with their post-high school plans, and we have several ways of doing all that we can to help along the way. So we have global planning sheets, and we help you plan that. So different countries have different schedules or calendars throughout the world. In the UK, I believe you follow what we call the US calendar, the one in the green, but other countries may want to partake with DMOCS with their AP program or CC, and they may follow different schedules or calendars. We can accommodate those. Here's a list of some of our helpful services. In our 20 plus years of experience, that's given us the ability to understand the needs of families we serve and how we can best meet those needs. Our services come from a place of helping your families with most every aspect of their educational journey. So the documents that we have, transcripts, certificates, proof of enrollment, diplomas, are all in place to help the families in your country with their educational needs. Our documents have been accepted throughout the world with government agencies, universities, other schools. We've worked with departments and ministries of education in a lot of countries. I just met with University of Pretoria when I was in South Africa a few weeks ago. We are the school part of your home education journey. So we can give you valid and legal school records, which is really a great thing. So we can apostille them, we can give authentications or attestations, which are needed in some of the other countries. I'm not sure if the UK needs that. But HLA has a proprietary grade reporting system called Apple Core that you see on your screen now. And you'll gain access to this program once you're enrolled. As we mentioned earlier, HLA does support many ways to educate and accepts all methods and philosophies of education. But with this, we need to know what the parent is teaching the student. And in this platform, you can put the resources that you're using, and then you put the grades in, the US grades A, B, C. But if you need to put numbers according to a different grading system, you can do that here as well. So you put the ABC, but then you can put the numbers in the resource section. So we have that flexibility. And HLA's global division serves families in two distinctive ways. As a first option, families are always welcome to register with us directly, and we'll provide individualized service to meet their specific needs. As the second option, 3 or more families can come together and form an official global group. We've seen how both of these options can help families depending on their situation, but regardless of how you come to HLA, we're happy to serve you. We have served several groups. We serve groups all over the globe, and we meet all kinds of expectations of different departments of education. So we want to first focus on generosity of spirit and then talk about financial matters when we're talking about generosity. While there are many pieces of HLA that are proprietary, we want to equip families with tools and resources that they need to reach their students' goals. But regardless of where the family is on their home education journey, we want to help share with families our years of knowledge and experience. I myself have been home educating for over 30 years. So I've done a lot wrong, and I've learned a lot along the way. And as a company, we have over 20 years of experience. So Home Life Academy's website is full of useful information that benefits families tremendously. We are working on additional global content in the form of webinars like this one, and partnerships with universities, with organizations like DMOCS and our CCI partnership. We do have an online curriculum called Home Life Learning that you can choose to use. You don't have to, though. And we're growing more and more all the time globally. So what are the fees and the costs? HLA has worked over the years to make sure we can give all families stellar customer service at an affordable cost. Fees can vary depending on how many students you have, because our current fee structure is based on that number of students in the family and the grade levels of those students. So we also know that life happens and unexpected financial obstacles come up. So we do have needs-based scholarships that could be available if you qualify. Very quickly, I'd like to take a moment to share with you a very dear organization called the Homeschool Care Foundation. It's our charitable arm, And it exists to help families that are struggling, or they just need access to more mentorship and advocates and things like that. So at Home Life Academy, we do what we can to help with those in crisis. We have hardship scholarships and all kinds of things through HCF. So grace, let us think of grace as courteous goodwill. We all make mistakes. The HLA global team understands this. We're all flawed, and we want to extend as much grace as we can to everyone. Most mistakes or accidents that happen can be undone. So don't worry about that too much. We're going to help you fill out forms, or if you do something incorrectly, we're going to help you correct it. All those things. So our global team can get pretty creative when we need to solve problems. We want to clear all the barriers we can for our global families. So please let us know if there's anything in particular that will work better for students in the UK that maybe we haven't thought of. The definition of diligence is careful and persistent work or effort. We all strive to give our families the best service we can and to hold ourselves to a goal of excellence. Again, while we don't expect perfection, when we do have grace when things go amiss, our global team works with the families every step of along the way to do all we can to make sure we fulfill every request exactly as needed. We rely on your expertise when it comes to home education rules and regulations in the UK. I'm pretty familiar with them, but as things change and we're in 120 plus countries, it's hard to keep up. So we just rely on you guys to let us know if things are changing. So integrity. Home Life Academy is a school with a remarkable reputation. We work hard to protect our excellence through the US and the world. HLA's documentation has been accepted in countries all over the globe, including UK universities. As such, we take the integrity of our families, our students, our documents very seriously. We expect all of our families, our students, our group administrators to uphold this same level of integrity. While Home Life Academy is unapologetically a Christian organization, we don't require member families to agree to a statement of faith or belief. However, we do ask that families agree to our code of ethics. If you'd like to review the code of ethics, it's on our website, or you can send us an email to global@Home Life Academy, and we can send that to you. The strength of HLA's documents comes from certain policies that we have in place. These policies protect all the students who have HLA documents issued and in the past, present, and future. We have many checks to ensure the quality of our documents. One of these is that we do require enrollment for a minimum of at least 90 days before you can get any documents sent out. And as a school that values integrity, we have gained and earned recognition and respect of several domestic and globally recognized organizations that you see here. These are different departments of education, advocacy groups, the NCAA, all kinds of departments of education. We couldn't list them all here, but those are the main ones in the United States that we have worked with and that we have a great reputation with. College Board, which offers the SAT, all those things. So in closing, we'd like to leave you with some quick facts about Home Life Academy. We are currently serving families in over 120 countries worldwide. We are proud to join in the revolution of home education. We support many homeschool organizations and advocacy groups all over the globe. We've graduated over 20,000 students in our 20 years. That's an amazing statistic. Most of these graduates are in US universities. Most of these universities in the United States, we already have graduates in, whether they're Harvard, Yale, Ivy League schools, the Citadel, all the major state universities. We have graduates from HLA in all of them, or who have graduated from pretty much every state. So for global students, we do have a list of a lot more than this of universities that we have students in. We're now having universities approach us about partnerships. So we're working on those, and I just had a conversation with Cece about that. So I hope this was informative. I know it was quick and a lot of information, but yeah, we look forward to working with Dumox more and CCI, continuing our relationship with them. And thank you so much for your time. I'm going to stop sharing this screen now. All right.
Thank you so much, Jill. A lot of information, but it's great. So it's great to hear it all. As I say, we won't take questions immediately if we can keep them to the end in case some things are answered as we go along. Roy, can I pass over to you now?
You certainly can. Hello, everybody. Apologies, first of all, I seem to be sitting in almost total darkness here. Not quite sure what's happening in the lighting in my room, but there we go. So just to introduce myself a little bit, I know one or two people here. Hello. So I'm a school teacher by day. So my day job has been teaching GCSEs and A levels for many years. From last September, last August, I started teaching a couple of APs with Dumox. So APs in European history and comparative government and politics. And as was said at the start, my two children are in the Caterham CC community, where my wife also tutors. So I'm going to try and sort of talk really to you as CC parents and think, how do APs fit in? Obviously, I can only really talk with any sort of authority about a couple of subjects, and I'm still a newbie in many ways. But Helen and Jenny, I'm sure, can help out with some of the other subjects. So first of all, what sort of standard are we looking at here? Essentially, APs, the closest equivalent to the British system is that they're like A levels. They're that sort of level, with the crucial difference being that A levels are usually taught over 2 years, APs are taught over 1 year. So that's the sort of standard we're looking at. The school board, the college board in the States tend to ask that you're working with a textbook, and AP means advanced placement. So the idea is that you are working at such a level that you could actually have some credit if you went to college in America in your first year. So, for example, here is the European history textbook that I'm working with at the moment. I mean, it's pretty hefty thing. Now, I'm not just sort of throwing that at my students and saying, read that and produce an exam at the end of it. But what I'm trying to suggest is that, there is quite a lot of work here. It's not, I don't think APs are to be taken lightly. And here's my comparative government and politics book. So perhaps slightly less intimidating, which I'm going that way, slightly less intimidating. But there is a real intellectual challenge here for the students, which I have to say my class has really risen to that this year. They've been great. I've really enjoyed teaching them. We only have a lesson a week, so an hour a week. So the onus is very much on the students working in between those lessons. So I would say that my experience so far has been that the students who are doing really well are the ones who are very well self-motivated, well organized, so they're able to go and work in between lessons. And they've got a certain amount of background knowledge already, but perhaps not too much. So the European history, for example, we're covering 1450 through to pretty much the present day. So some of that they will have covered through CC or elsewhere, but probably not a great deal. And with the government and politics, it's very much about the ideas behind the political scene rather than looking at contemporary affairs as such. So again, most of that is completely new to them. So with the government and politics, we focus on 6 countries. You have to focus on 6 countries, which are UK, Russia, China, Nigeria, Mexico, and Iran. So it's kind of an interesting mix of countries from around the world there. So I thought what I could usefully do is just show you very, very briefly a little bit of what the AP classroom looks like. So one other big difference from A-level, for those who've been through the A-level system, is that there's a bunch of central resources that are provided by the College Board. And as a teacher, I can set my students a certain number of videos to watch each week, a certain number of questions to do each week, which feed in ultimately to the AP exam, which is very different from anything I'd be doing as an A-level teacher. So if I just get this up. So hopefully you can see that. So this is what we're doing at the moment. We're working on the 18th century, and I can set them all this sort of work so they can get to see some daily videos which explain, in this case, about the late 18th century. They can do some questions here, which are an interesting mix. Again, this is very different from A-level. So there are quite a lot of the questions in the exam are multiple choice, which is very different from A-level. And then even the other questions where they've got to write a bit more are much, much shorter than A-level essays that you might be familiar with. So all of this is available. And as you can see, there are 9 units to cover during the year. So we're moving at a fairly rapid pace. And a similar sort of thing for government and politics as well. So how does this map onto CC? I think the first thing to say is that AP is not a Christian exam. So although DumOx rather is teaching, the teachers all coming from a Christian perspective, we're working with a secular curriculum. So that's a little bit of a shock at times, I think, when you're used to the classical Christian model. It's not quite that, but what you are getting is a qualification that is accepted in the US, in the UK, and around the world. So one of my previous jobs was working on university entry. So I've done thousands of UCAS forms in my time, and it's just very clear that having APs is a very well-trodden path into UK universities. So that is what you're getting, I guess, by taking APs. It's not something to replace the higher years of challenge at all, but it's something that can sit alongside them, perhaps when we're looking at challenge 3 and challenge 4 in particular. What else do I need to say about that? Yes, the exam situation for anybody who's been educated in the UK, I think, just feels very different. As I say, a lot of it is multiple choice, and the questions all feel much shorter than they are for A-level. So, how do the two compare? They are of a very similar level, I would say, except that you can you're being tested on what you've learned in 1 year. It's a fairly intense year, but nonetheless, it's only a year. So some of my students are doing 2 APs, some are doing 3. You potentially could do 4 in a year, but the typical way of doing it in the States is you kind of drip feed them in. So you start off with perhaps 1 in 1 year and then do a couple in another year. And for UK entry to university, really depends which university you're looking at, but some universities will accept as few as 2 APs for entry, which is remarkable. I find astounding, frankly. But anyway, that is the case. Through to Cambridge, which will want 5 APs. And the grading works on a 1 to 5, so 5 being the top grade. So if you're applying for Cambridge, essentially you want 5 APs at level 5. But Cambridge is a bit of an exception. If you're looking at most other universities in the UK, we're looking at probably 3 APs. But all of this is very clearly set out on any individual university's website. You just have to look at sort of the international profile, so the American profile, even if your children are British and studying in Britain. Have I enjoyed teaching it this year? Yes, absolutely. I have. Have the students enjoyed it? Yes, I think they have. Although perhaps I shouldn't sort of put words in their mouth. Is it hard work? Yes, it is. And I think you have to be thinking, if you're going to be doing this, or if your children are going to be doing this, can I commit the time to it? How many subjects can I realistically commit to in any one year? Does it fit in? Does it map onto the CC curriculum? Yes, it does, though not absolutely directly. You're doing things slightly differently because it's not a Christian classical form of education, but it aligns quite well with it. And it's certainly what the big advantage is, that you're in this situation, you're being taught by Christian teachers rather than how do I put it? In school, my experience in school is that you can end up being taught by people with a whole range of particular beliefs which might not align with your beliefs at all. So I'm supposed to keep to 10 minutes. That's, I think, my 10 minutes, but I'm very happy to take any questions about practicalities or any other issue towards the end, if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Could you just stop your screen share? I'm not sure if I'm able to do that for you. Oh, that's great.
Sorry, I thought I'd done that hours ago.
It's okay. I'm just going to do a little screen share too. I can. And Helen and I will just, before we do any questions, do a little on how Tomox learning fits into everything. Can you see that okay? Yeah. Okay, so just a little bit about us, how we've started. Helen and I are both homeschool parents of 7 children each, that we've had a lot of them gone through their whole homeschooling journey and onto universities and different things in their adult life. I have 2 still homeschooling age. Helen just has 1. But we have discovered this whole just seems an amazing revelation that this is the way that is so suited to, especially I think, Christian families in this country, for getting a high school diploma and APs and having that route that's flexible to fit in with homeschooling, but also having what's needed to apply for universities or apprenticeships or whatever goes beyond school. So we started a couple of courses. Helen taught a couple of AP classes, and we realized there was a need for more, and we started up Damox Learning so we could offer more of those AP courses. Helen, do you want to just do a little?
Okay, that was us in Eastbourne, by the way. That was us at CC in Eastbourne.
Oh yes, with Roy.
So this just very briefly. So just in terms of, for the Americans, it's slightly different as to what you need to get into American universities. So in the UK, you're going to need more than the high school diploma and to get into university. So in America, you can tend to need the high school diploma and SATs. But in England, you also need APs. And the way I find it easier to explain it is in the sense that if you have 3 pillars, there's like sort of 3 parts to it all. So the high school diploma, we're suggesting that you do with Home Life Academy. That seems to be like the obvious, the best fit for CC. So it's almost like so you can continue, the great things that you do with CC, but the kind of high school diploma will almost kind of formulate it into something that the British universities will recognise. And then the SAT is an English and maths exam, and then the AP is the A-level equivalent. So that's the kind of the three parts that you need in the UK. And I think we've said this. I think Jill has explained all this.
Is this all? Will I just go on, Helen?
Yeah, I think everything. Yeah, so this is the SAT part. The SAT is an English and maths exam. It's it's like a one-off exam. There's just one paper to it. It's all multiple choice. It's at your local private, like posh school, really. So whichever your posh international school near you, that's probably where you're going to sit it. It happens multiple times a year. You do a course, or you study for it independently. And yeah, it's kind of it's now all digital. It's about just over 2 hours long, and you get a numerical score out of 1600 for it. And that's, most people do that. Most people do an SAT, and that's kind of one of the sort of hoops you've got to jump through. But it's not like a separate year course or anything. And this is the AP bit. So Jenny and I both have used a high school diploma. For lots of reasons, we just found it, for us, we just much preferred it than doing the English equivalent, doing GCSEs. We do a Christian curriculum, and I'd never even heard of CC, but so we've been doing a different Christian curriculum for many years, and we wanted our kids to be at home until they were 18. We didn't want to do GCSEs, but we got to a point that we wanted our kids to be able to go to university, so we found these APs, and then that's how Dumox came about. So I think we've said a lot of this now. It's just a one paper exam. You have to go to an exam centre. Happens once a year. There's not a November paper. It happens in May every year. And if you want to kind of have a look at British universities and see what they want, if you look at, say, Bath University, and you go into the international section, then you can see, and go to USA, then you can see what they want. And there's just some examples coming up here of what. So this is Southampton University. So Southampton University want 3 APs. So you can just look at the international section and then look at USA, and then it will tell you what you need. And there's just a couple of slides here of various universities and just telling you what they want. And this is us. This is Dumox Learning. Want to go for it, Jenny?
Yeah, the courses that we have got running this year, as Roy's mentioned, a couple of them. The courses, the subjects in black there are the ones that are running just now. We're hoping to have those 4 and potentially some other ones starting from next end of August is when they begin. We've also got SAT, maths and English coming up in January, and some other times through the year the SATs are more often shorter courses. The APs all run from August for the school year. This is what is included in when you enroll in an AP class. I'll let you just look at those quickly. And Roy's explained quite a bit about that very well. Here's our prices, the SAT and the AP. Just to mention that we have a bunch of these enrichment courses starting in January, which are nothing to do with the APs or the high school diploma, but they're added extras.
The connection is Roy, so Roy's doing the Narnia one. So Roy's doing 2 on Narnia. So
and actually 1 for adults, so it's nothing to do with it at all, but it'll be great. Yeah, and there's the SAT ones. We've also got a couple of. We do have an IGCSE maths and an algebra 1. We've got an American, and we do have some other extra courses that go along too. Maybe we should.
Yeah, I'll go up to questions. I think you can ask us that if you want to know
questions now. So we've got a little bit of time.
Thank you for listening. I hope you're not bamboozled by PowerPoints.
I'll stop sharing. And yeah, I don't know if people want to. So it's just 9:10, so we've got hopefully 20 minutes. if people want to put a question in the chat bar or raise your hand, I think there's not too many people that you could just speak up if you wanted to, or you could just type something if you'd rather. Josh, you can go ahead.
Which was why, like, I mean, so I think you can in the UK just like take a GCSE exam somewhere or an A-level exam somewhere. So the question I had was why the American equivalent as opposed to the local exams?
Do you want to? We can all answer that. So, I mean, I'm sure Roy would have something to say. I mean, I suppose if you, of course, you can do that. If you want to do CC, then it's pretty difficult to do that. If you want to do CC and do 3 A levels, which is, and I say you want to go to university and you're going to do 3 A levels, it's going to be pretty difficult to do CC and 3 A levels. You know, but to do 3 APs is much simpler because it's half the workload. So, I mean, that's a very short answer. I'm sure Roy will give you reasons why he doesn't think GCSEs are such a great thing to do, but
I actually have an opinion as well.
Sure.
2 words: freedom and flexibility. I think the GCSE is much more of a box, and they're just assessing what they want to assess on that exam. And I think with the APs, you have a little more freedom to choose your APs and to choose how you want to do it, and it's just easier. I think even Harvard is getting away from the SAT because it's just exam-based assessment can be really hard for some students. And I think the AP exam is a lot, it's just one subject and it's just more well-contained. And if you have something like Dumox helping you prepare for that, I think it's just so much of an easier route for the students than the GCSEs, personally.
Yeah, I can understand why people think about that question, because we went through precisely that questioning of ourselves, really. My oldest daughter is now GCSE age, and so we had a good long year thinking, should we just go and do GCSEs? And there are all sorts of problems. One of the problems is, how many do we do? Do we just tick the absolutely necessary boxes and do maths and English? Well, perhaps we should do science as well. Or is that going to look really poor on a certificate? And actually, we probably need to get a few more. So as soon as you start pushing yourself up, you think, well, where do you stop there? And that's going to be incredibly time consuming. It just wouldn't have fitted with CC. So it was going to be either CC or GCSEs if we did them at the standard age. Then the other question is, do we absolutely need them? So the answer to that for university entries is no, you don't need GCSEs. I have lots of students I've taught from Hong Kong over the years who tend to join us in the 6th form in the school where I teach, and they don't have GCSEs. They don't have any qualifications at that age, and they're all strolling into university, no problem at all. So the really key qualification is the A level or the A level equivalent. And then when we were looking at the two, it just seemed that the APs were a much better fit with what was going on in CC than the A levels. Plus, they're only taking a year, so we could still keep that classical Christian approach that was so valuable for us and the community, and keep that Christian community going through those teenage years, which are absolutely crucial, I think. So that's how we were thinking it through. Then there is the question, though, that it might be that a maths and English, maybe other GCSEs, can be useful at a later date, especially if your children are going down a vocational route, for example. But they don't absolutely have to be done at 15 or 16. They could be picked up at other times as well. So, we have friends who've homeschooling friends who've gone down the GCSE route. We've got friends who've gone down the AP route. And some who've done other things. So certainly there is that freedom and that flexibility for you to choose. But we thought, why are we going to throw away all of the good things that we value that we've got at the moment for the sake of a few certificates? And so we, in the end, after quite a lot of agonizing, if I'm honest, we decided to sort of stick with CC to see that through. and we feel very, very happy we made that decision.
And bearing in mind, in case maybe it has been mentioned, how an AP can be looked at as the equivalent of the A level, but it can also be used as a high school credit, so that credit for that subject. So if you're in high school, your high school age, and you're taking Roy's AP class, that will count as a credit in your high school diploma too. So it's kind of unlike the GCSEs that you finish and then you do the A levels, and it's a separate thing. It's just to mention that.
But thank you for the question. Sorry.
Can I say one more thing about that? Is that it also, because the GCSEs take so much time and the AP preparation takes less time, that gives your student more time to study some of the things that maybe aren't even in a curriculum, in a book, that interest them. The world is ever changing, and they may want to study AI technology. They might want to study animals. You know, they have the time and the space to think their own thoughts, I think, with the AP American High School Diploma pathway, more so than they would with that GCSE curriculum and way of doing things.
Rachel is raising her hand. Do you want to?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, we had a talk from CC about challenge, and if I understood right, she was saying that you could just go through CC and then fill in a university transcript and get into a UK university. So I got the impression for that you didn't need anything else, whereas I'm getting the impression from this that you do need other qualifications for UK university. So I don't know if anyone can clarify that.
Yeah, okay, so for British universities, I'd say there's a spectrum. So if you want to go to a good British university, then you're going to need APs. I would say that sometimes you need a high school diploma and APs and the SAT. Some, particularly Scottish universities, seem to be that you might only need a high school diploma. Some you need a high school diploma and the SAT. You know, it just varies. Some you only need APs and no high school diploma. It just varies. So there is definitely no uniformity about what you need. I think we've always taken the attitude that we wanted our children to not kind of get to a point where they really want to go to X university and they haven't got the right qualifications for it. So I think we always felt for us that the high school diploma, almost like the high school diploma just kind of fitted in with everything else we were doing anyway. It was like that was a kind of no question to do that part of it. It just made sense to do that. That just kind of fitted in with everything else. And then we decided that we wanted the SAT and the APs in case they wanted to sort of do something. Even my most unacademic one, who didn't do very well in those exams and was no way ever going to study, and then 4 or 5 years later is now studying. She went off traveling for several years, and I think that the fact she actually had those exams meant that she then had those options. I think we always took the attitude that we were keeping our kids' options open. So yeah, I think you could just do the diploma, and I think you might get into university, but I think you're limiting things a lot, and I think it's better not to do that.
Yeah, I think.
Can I just add one thing? Is that Classical Conversations is a curriculum. It doesn't offer an actual diploma.
Oh.
They partner with us to do that.
Yeah.
So you can present a transcript, but it wouldn't be an actual diploma because that's a curriculum.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had the first set of graduates going through CC in the UK, so we're beginning to see people coming out at the other end, and some of them are now at university, and they've gone to various different types of university, and they've got in slightly different ways. So because APs have only just recently become available in any sort of practical way in the UK, the route that people have tended to be taking is finish CC and then do an A level or 2 or 3, either after Challenge 4 or maybe at the same time as Challenge 3 or Challenge 4. But we've seen at least one student go to university without any A levels or APs at all. That is, I would have to say, very unusual, and that's one particular university. But generally speaking, I'd agree with Helen. I think it just makes it, you have many more options, and it makes it much easier to get into UK universities and the whole range of UK universities if you've got some sort of recognisable national qualification. And because CC's an American institution initially, the APs kind of fit in with that perhaps more naturally than A levels do. And as everybody's been saying, because you're doing it over a year rather than a couple of years of GCSEs and a couple of years of A levels, that makes it easier to fit in.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So in terms of, so SATs you can take online. In terms of taking APs, how easy is it to sit AP exams in the UK?
You can't sit SATs online. You've got to. It's a digital exam, but you go to the centre and it's digital. So you do it digitally at the centre, but you actually have to go in person at the moment. Who knows when it'll change. This year we've got one centre near Oxford. Last year we had a centre in Harrogate. That's the most difficult thing about the exam, like the centre. That there's only one centre this year that's allowing us to do them in the UK. But it's not expensive in compared to an A level. It's much cheaper. It's about £175, and I know people spend between £500 and £800. I've heard unbelievable amounts that people are paying for A levels. So it's not been expensive to do them. But yeah, that's I wish we had lots of centres, but we don't. So the charity shops were very good in Harrogate. So a load of us went up. It was comical last year. There were so many of us going up there, and we were staying in hotels in Harrogate, and yeah, great charity shops up there. So but yeah, no, we'd love to have more centres. That's definitely the downside, the biggest problem.
Can I add to that? I feel like I keep adding things. I'm sorry,
Right.
but
No, don't be sorry.
we are actually forging relationships with universities in other countries and asking them to allow our students to sit AP. And that is something we can start doing in the UK as well, is asking centers to, because we do have a lot of students that we can use as leverage, if you will. And we are an official school, asking an official school to do that. So if that's a problem that you have in the UK, I can start to look into addressing that. We just talked to a school in South Africa that's offering 12 centers all over the country where they had one.
Right. I'll write to you tomorrow about that. I'll write to you tomorrow. That's amazing.
Yes, we'll talk about that, Helen.
Yeah. I just another personal note. For our family, we wanted our kids to be at home until they were 18. I mean, that was just so important. If we could have picked the worst time to go into school, it would have been 16. So, so the idea of, and I'm sure that some CC families, well, I know that's what some people have done. Their kids have ended up going to college to do the A level bit. And, personally, I just think the last few years of your kids being at home, it's just the best. I mean, it's just great having them at home, and they're just so interesting, and they've got so much, I don't know, they're just interested in so many cool things. You just learn so much about the world from what they're doing, and it's just, and I want them to be at home. I don't want them to be influenced. I don't want them to go to college and have all those, as Roy was saying, like teachers teaching them all sorts of strange things. So yeah, I want them at home. So anything I can do to keep them at home and educate them so they can make the next step is what we wanted to do.
Any more? We could maybe take another question. Any other questions? Everybody's quite quiet. We've got 25 people. No, everybody understands it all perfectly clearly.
I have another question if nobody else does.
Go.
I don't want to ask too many questions, but if nobody else has some questions, I do have some. In terms of how many APs do people usually take in a year?
Depends if you're American or not. Some Americans seem to do, like, seriously, I mean, some of them do about 9 APs altogether. My son's 15, he's doing his first one this year. and then he's going to do probably 2 the following year and 2 the following year.
Okay, so he's separating starting at 15.
Yeah, he's doing the easiest ones. So APs are not the same. So A levels are all a fairly similar standard. APs are not all the same standard. So that was like, that completely threw me. So one would expect like all APs to be the same, but they're not. Some are easier than others. So he's doing the easy one. He's doing human geography, AP human geography.
Okay, and is that like? So I'm now have so many more questions.
Fine.
So is that represented in like, so when you say they want 4 APs, 3 APs, does it matter what APs there are? Like,
no, not really. I mean, obviously, if you want to go to university to do maths, then yeah, you obviously need maths and physics and that kind of thing. But if you want to go to university to do English, then it's the same as an A level, really.
Same as A levels, I guess.
Yeah.
In some countries like Switzerland, it does matter. Like Lausanne will not accept human geography because it knows it's easier. But and like Harvard, in the United States, you want to make sure, but it sounds like the UK, it's just straight APs. They don't really care which one. So I would definitely go for human geography first.
They probably don't know.
By far the easiest.
Yeah, we were reading today about Christianity and what Christianity was, and it was all about religion and stuff. And it was like, well, you kind of know all this. It really was it wasn't very difficult.
But sorry, Jill, you were saying that in America there's like some universities are like, we only take these APs, and these APs we wouldn't consider, or it would be worth less.
Yeah, rarely. But so Harvard being our gold standard is 6 APs, and Lausanne in Switzerland being their gold standard is 6 APs. So, if your student is thinking they might want to go out of the UK, then I would say 6 APs is good. But as Helen said, you can do 2 per year for 3 years. You can do, mix and match them according to what else your student is doing at the time. Maybe they, prefer to work hard the first semester and coast a little the second semester. With the DOMOC's program, they can pick and choose per year, as I understand it. So it's a great idea to map out your whole rest of your high school or your whole high school and just build those AP courses in my opinion. And then it's not quite such a burden, like when you're doing that A level, it's kind of all or nothing. That's not how AP is. So you have a lot more of a freedom, flexibility with scheduling.
Okay, I have one more question. Sorry, one more question, then I promise I'll be done.
Yeah, go.
Like per week, including classes and the work at home, like how many hours roughly is an AP?
4, 5, that kind of number.
5. Okay.
Do you agree, Roy?
Yes, I guess so. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's like any A level as well. The more time you can give to it, and the more you can, with my government and politics students, they're doing the work I'm setting, but I also want them to be, keeping abreast of the news, obviously. And the more they're doing that, then the better they're doing. With my history students, and again, any reading around they can do is kind of an added bonus on top of the work I'm literally setting them to do. But yeah, I guess it's around about that amount. Can I answer a question that's come up in the chat as well? So
yeah.
There's a question about whether I have students doing APs alongside Challenge in CC. So at the moment, my students are all homeschoolers through DOMOCs, but then none of them are CC students. So I haven't got a direct answer to that question, but I think from my knowledge of Challenge, as I say, my oldest daughter is doing Challenge 2 at the moment. I think it would certainly be possible, but you probably wouldn't want to be doing 4 APs plus Challenge, Challenge A or something. That would be pretty hard. But Challenge final year of Challenge actually does kind of is deliberately a little bit lighter to give an opportunity for people to do other things, you know, whether that's APs or you know, work experience, or, you know, whatever you choose to do. Can I also, sorry, I had one other question, just one other point, just while I remember, is there is a document going around CC, I don't know quite who looks after it now, where we did some work on contacting universities, individual universities, to see what was their attitude towards students who are homeschooled and doing APs. And that should be available from Janine Bell and others. And what it boiled down to was that they're all very happy to take APs from homeschoolers. They're not going to discriminate against them. As Helen said, it occasionally makes a difference depending on the course you want to study at university. So, but that information is all readily available. Sorry, I interrupted.
It's all right. My question was, I seem to remember, Roy, you at one point saying, this was at Eastbourne we were in at Eastbourne at the CC day. Am I right in saying that for Cambridge it was 5 APs in 1 year, as in all taken at the same time? You said that, or I can't quite remember. Yeah,
that's right. But again, that's quite unusual. So most of the universities we contacted said doesn't really matter whether they're spread out. But Cambridge is, you know, Cambridge is, you know, is a different case. I mean, it's just really hard. It's really hard to get into a. And my students in school don't really believe me when I tell them how difficult it is to get an offer from Cambridge. They all think, you know, I'm fairly bright, I'll be fine. And, you know, you have to be exceptionally bright and really lucky. So they are looking for people who you know, just take every exam completely in their stride. And then something a bit more.
And is that the same with Oxford?
Well, Oxford don't seem to be quite so. I mean, you know, I'm not going to put down Oxford here, especially as I'm being recorded, and especially as I'm a graduate of Oxford. But they don't seem to have quite the same. How do I put it?
Scrutiny.
Demand. Yes, exactly. That'll do.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's really worth having a look. If there's universities that you think, oh, I went there, I wonder, you know, I don't know, you hear about different places, just to look them up and look up what the requirements are and get a feel of different ones that potentially you do think, oh, your child might be going down that kind of route or something. It's interesting to look at them all.
And they're very happy to talk to you as well. And the admissions, you know, again, this has changed, I think, over the years, but you can just contact them and say, look, this is our situation. You know, we've been homeschooling. These are the qualifications we're doing or thinking of doing. You know, what would your attitude be? And they're usually pretty good at getting back. You know, obviously sometimes a year are a bit busier for them than others. But I just contacted a whole bunch of universities out of the blue and said, look, these are the questions I've got. Could you let me know? And some of them are getting back to me incredibly quickly, and they're all getting back to me with thorough answers, even if it took a few of them slightly longer.
Could I just ask a question?
Sure.
Thanks. So with the maths and English SAT, would that be considered like the equivalent of the GCSEs in maths and English? And say your child didn't want to go to university, but they did challenge till they were 18, and then they fancied going to do a vocational course or something, rather than a university course as such. So obviously there's probably, you know, different places that would have different things. So I'm just wondering, like, say they do some APs before they're 18, or say they don't, or whatever, but they do the SAT in the maths and English. Do you know how that would be sort of looked upon?
It's more the high school diploma. So the high school diploma is equivalent to 5 GCSEs. So if you get an accredited high school diploma with Home Life Academy, for example, then that's equivalent to 5. So that would include your maths and your English GCSE, and then your APs would be equivalent to A levels. So if you're going into like the workplace or like an apprenticeship and you want to get a higher apprenticeship, then yeah, so they're having the high school diploma, that'd be your GCSE maths and English, and then your APs would be your A levels, so you could get on into the workplace.
Okay.
Not the SAT. The SAT wouldn't really equate to a maths and English GCSE, but the high school diploma would.
Right. And so doing the SAT, the 2 individual exams for the SATs would just add to it.
Yeah, so the SAT is one exam. It's a combined maths and English exam. It's not separate.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a combined exam. So look, with Dumox, we're offering tuition in both of them, but in the English part and the maths part, but it's just one exam. It's like I don't know, it's just like it's not like any other exam I've ever seen before. It's just a very unusual exam. It's not there's nothing like it in England. So, and the English part is not, it's not like any text or anything you ever read. It's like a test on English comprehension and grammar. Yeah, I mean, it's so like the grammar section, you can pretty much score 100% if you practice it. I mean, it's a very unusual exam.
Yeah.
I would definitely suggest prepping for it though, because it is so unusual that it's a game to play.
Yeah,
to be honest. And you need to take a course like Dumox offers so that you can play the game, so that you can get the score. And it really doesn't indicate how intelligent you are. And
I mean, kids who are better at maths don't necessarily do as well as the kids who are not as good at maths on that exam. You know, it's not a maths exam. It's not a maths exam of how good you are at maths. It's a maths exam of how well you know 30, 60, 90 triangles. You know, there's just like certain things that come up a lot on it. But it's an unusual exam.
It's more like an IQ test, I think. How high is your IQ?
Can I follow on from that last question? Am I right in saying that generally for vocational British jobs and things and courses, the absolute necessary sometimes is the English GCSE and maths? So that's the kind of gateway into vocational things in the UK, right? So if our kids are much more likely or don't even want to consider higher education, we should just cut our losses, just do the English and maths GCSE, because that is the gateway into lots of British and English. It might be limiting on the global scale, but
or you could do a high school diploma, and that would give you 5 GCSEs, which is which is easier.
But if I want to be a zookeeper, my daughter wants to be a zookeeper in London Zoo, do you think they would accept the American version? Are they all? Yeah,
I think they'd accept the high school diploma, yeah, and that would be equivalent to 5 GCSEs.
You can get it translated too, right?
Yeah, there's an organisation that you just send your high school diploma to. They need it, and you know, I mean, yeah, it's widely recognised as being equivalent to 5 GCSEs. It's equivalent to much more than 5 GCSEs, but you know, so if you do a high school diploma, it's equivalent to, it's just worth much more than that in terms of the level of it. But yeah, that's what the British universities and British employers will consider it equivalent to.
Because that's the minimum, right? It's like you know, no matter what you do, they'll say, okay, at minimum, this is what we'll guarantee that it is, because they can't quantify what everybody's high school diploma is.
Okay.
So they'll say, okay, we'll give you a certificate to say it's equivalent to this at minimum, kind of thing.
I thought it might be that the vocational world in the UK wasn't so used to having foreign people applying. Because
I think it's going to be, you know, if I say if you've got 2 students and one's got 5 GCSEs and one's got the American high school diploma, yeah, I'm sure you will get some employers that are just going to give it to the kid that's got the 5 GCSEs because it's simpler, you know. But you know, I think it requires a phone call. I think it requires a letter of explanation. You know, you might get someone who's quite interested because you've got something unusual. You know, in our world, there are so many people from all over the place, you know, applying with their unusual qualifications. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely, and I think you can cite all universities are going to, that's what universities say it's equivalent to. So, you know, but yeah, it's, of course, it's not as simple as having a British qualification. Sorry, go ahead.
But we can provide that letter along with the diploma.
Okay.
We can write a standard letter that says this is why we assess this, and we can have, you know, an outside organization or whatever. So we can help with that at HLA.
And I don't know whether you can get a GCSE in whatever your daughter wants to do. What did you say, a zookeeper or whatever? Can you get a GCSE in zookeeping? But you could probably have lots of things on your high school diploma that would be very relevant to zookeeping.
My
have
sister,
a
my
different-
sister was sorry to interrupt. My sister was home educated and became a zookeeper, so I felt that I should unmute and just speak into that. She actually, when she got to the zoo and applied, they had something like 200 applications for one position, and they ignored every academic qualification and looked for work experience. And she got in on the fact that she had volunteered at a local farm from the age of 13. Because she was home educated, she could go there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, work for 2 hours, volunteer, and then come home and do her work in the afternoon. And because she was home educated, she was able to be articulate at interview, and they gave her the position as a zookeeping apprentice over 200 other applicants. So I think, I mean, this particular call is about higher education, so it's helpful to remember that, but also just to remember that we're giving our kids like the best equipping as home educated parents. So this isn't just about academics, it's about learning. So we want them to learn and we want them to have opportunity to learn. So let's give them the best opportunity to learn. Like Helen was saying, we're giving the opportunity. She might want to be a zookeeper and then 3 years down the line decide she's had enough of mucking out and actually want to change careers and do something different. This is my sister experienced. And then at that point, she's got those qualifications to fall back on and say, okay, well, the world's my oyster, because I did that. Sorry.
Thank you, Beth.
Yes,
That's
thank
brilliant.
you.
I think we should end on that
Yeah,
note.
do.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for all those that shared everything. And all
Thank
the
you. Thank you,
questions.
Jill. Thank you, Roy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless.